Tonight on the docket, the dangers of central planning and new signs the president has still not learned the lesson of the past 3 years of economic turmoil. In just a few days, President Obama will address the Congress and the nation to outline how he and his big government cronies will save our economy. If only this administration would realize that doing less would do more for our economy. But more government action is most likely what we'll hear from him, especially in the wake of all the pressure he's getting from his base for not being liberal enough, for not being big government enough. From his money printing schemes to his infrastructure banks to attempting to engineer a new age green economy, whatever the president drums up in order to appease his liberal base will most likely hinder, not help, long-term economic growth. He should listen to what the stock market is telling him today after another triple-digit dive. Investors are not excited at the prospect of more central planning. Doesn't the president get that taking a sharper turn to the left is actually a turn for the worse? Here on that is Texas Republican Congressman and presidential hopeful Ron Paul, who joins us by phone from Clute, Texas. Congressman Paul, it's a pleasure. Welcome back to Freedom Watch.
Thank you, Judge. Good to be with you.
What would you tell the Congress and the nation on Thursday night if you were the president of the United States in the circumstances in which President Obama now finds himself?
Economically speaking, we need to clean house. We need to change the whole system because we've been following the wrong ideas. We have been following Keynesian economics. We need to get rid of the mistakes made. That means you have to liquidate the debt. And you have to change our ways with regulations, taxation, monetary policy, foreign policy. We have to just quit spending and allow the market to work. That's what made America great. We did have a market economy a while back, but since 1913, we've gone in the wrong direction with the Federal Reserve and the income tax, and we have to have a revolution of ideas.
We certainly need a revolution in people's thinking. The idea that the government can solve all our problems, the idea that the government can save us from Mother Nature when we have these hurricanes, the idea that the government can just print its way into prosperity, which has been ingrained into Americans for 100 years, and which you have labored so mightily to get Americans finally to talk about and to re-examine, is something that would have to come about, I would think, before members of Congress, a majority of members of Congress, would agree with you.
Well, you know, I think it goes back, and you talk about a lot of the basic concept of rights. Where do we get our rights, and what do rights mean? And, you know, whether it's worker rights or minority rights or whatever, they're talking about groups instead of the individual. And when they talk about this, they endorse the concept of entitlement. Entitlements are now rights. Business people think they're entitled to certain helps. Right. Everybody's entitled to a bailout. The poorer they have entitlements. So it's this whole lost notion of what rights are and the responsibility. We want our right to our life and our liberties, and we ought to be able to keep the fruits of our labors. But we sort of have given up on that. We have grown very soft. But unfortunately, you know, we did well by borrowing and printing money, but we're at the end of the road there, and people will have to make a decision on whether they want liberty back or whether they want to just drift further into a totalitarian state.
Well, what happens on Thursday night when the president, probably with a little sweetener here and a little sweetener there, basically says he wants to borrow another $1 trillion and spend it on jobs, make work to get people back to work, P.S. before Election Day?
Well, I think that just puts another heavy weight on the economy. The weight is the spending and the regulations and the taxation and the requirement of the Fed keep monetizing this debt. So he puts another weight on the economy, and it won't do any good. It's going to just bring down the economy more so because they haven't changed their tune. They have to change their ideas about how an economy grows.
How are you feeling? You got another Republican debate coming up Wednesday of this week, tomorrow night. There's one about 2 weeks later on Fox. How's Ron Paul doing in these debates?
Well, I think pretty good. I mean, when I consider what was happening, you know, even 4 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there weren't very many of us. And now, wherever I go, the numbers keep growing, the enthusiasm there, we can raise the money. But I even hear it with some of the other candidates starting to talk about, well, we better check up on this Federal Reserve. Maybe we do need an audit. Maybe we shouldn't let them print all this money. And even hinting that maybe the foreign policy should be changed. So in that sense, I think we're winning in the battle for ideas.
Even your opponents concede that you have dominated the debate for ideas. Congressman Paul, it's a pleasure. Sorry we had to do this by phone. We appreciate you chatting with us today.
Judge, thank you.